you've been always one to not always, or one to not always take the popular sort of approach with being vocal about things that you believed in. I know that was the case when there was scandals with Balco and athletes that you thought might have used performance-enhancing drugs. What sort of gave you that inner sort of message to do that when a lot of athletes, for reasons either sponsorship or fear of repercussions with the Olympic Committee or their teammates, or, you know, being fearful of being one, you know, to be, let's say, jealous, you know, people can come up with contrive any sort of stories they want for somebody that speaks out against something that they think is a problem. What sort of drove you through that? And I guess, would you do it again if faced with the same knowledge that you know now? And I'm sure there was some blowback, but I mean, I'd be interested to know if you felt that speaking out was worth it.
There's definitely a price that you pay to do that. That, you know, to exercise that freedom of speech, there's a price to pay. And you know, my sponsors were eclectic, off-brand, Guinness beer instead of Procter and Gamble. You know, like Everlast instead of just Speedo, and the difference was, you know, a lot of money to go with kind of those more obscure brands that would be associated with somebody who was willing to talk openly about doping in sport and be honest about it. It was something that it troubled me. I am compelled. I have a strong sense of justice, social and otherwise, but it just seemed so unjust that you know, you could you know, somebody who steals $1,000 from a gas station goes to jail. Lance Armstrong steals millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and he can say, "Oh yeah, but the next guy was cheating, and the next guy was cheating. Everybody was cheating." That's not true. That's not true. Like, you may have to go down many, many, many tiers, but eventually somebody down there was a clean athlete who could have been the best. We don't know his name. That's it. That's an injustice. And you know, just how self-righteous these people were too. I mean, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco. Like, these were all childhood heroes of mine. I loved baseball when I was a kid. I was just like shattered to learn that not only were these guys cheaters, but they're just like the biggest assholes ever. And that just irked me to no end. And you know, I didn't see any consequence. Right? The consequence was, they, you know, if they were shamed, they didn't have to give up all their money or anything like that, and they weren't going to jail. So it just, I don't know. Yeah, that I was always kind of speaking up, and doping occurs in the Olympics too. I mean, the documentary Icarus kind of showed the systematic doping, the Russian athletes, and I saw it early in my swimming career. My first international meet was 1994 World Championships in Rome, and the Chinese women won almost every single event. I think they only like lost 2 events: the women's 200 freestyle and like maybe a relay. Otherwise, they were, I mean, winning like top 2, 3 medals in some of the events. It was just, and it was so clear that they were cheating. There was just, I mean, the technique, I mean, you're around the sport, you have such an intimate knowledge of the sport. You're able to see, you've been through the training, and you're able to see the incremental improvements and stuff. And they didn't have the technique. They didn't have the training background. It was all secretive. It was just, and so it just, that was my first international meet. And I think most of those women that one that eventually tested positive somewhere down the years down the road. And their medals were, never stripped or anything like that. Another personal thing that touched me was Michelle Smith, Irish swimmer in 1996 Olympics, and she beat Alison Wagner. And Alison was the sweetest girl, a friend, and she was the best in the world. And she got silver medals in 2 events, I think, to Michelle, and nobody remembers that. And so I took it upon myself to write a letter to email Michelle Smith. She's a lawyer in Ireland, and I've probably written her about half a dozen times, just asking her to make it right. She ended up being banned from the sport because she had tampered with a urine sample, and it had been pretty clear that she had been cheating when she was caught doing that. And so, but it was, that wrong was never made right. And, a lot of people just forget and move on. But Alison didn't, I didn't.
Well, I'm glad